Hello everyone, welcome back to part 2 of Indian economy and its issues relating to planning. So in the earlier lecture of the unit we saw about types of planning, what is economic growth, what is economic development, strategies of planning, historical evolution of planning and stuff. In this video we will be looking about three topics which are fire plans, planning commission and NIIO. It should be noted that these three topics are very important with respect to prelims perspective and as well as mains perspective, considering the fact that questions have been asked in the recent past, particularly in the 5-year plans and other topics such as planning commission and NIIO too. So let's get into the topic. Starting with the 5-year plans, we should know that there are 12 5-year plans which the government of India implemented since independence to 2017. So we'll be looking into each 5-year plans one by one. The first 5-year plan, which ranged from period of 1951 to 1956, was based on the Harrod-Domer model. Like in this presentation, there will be like just minute details about the 5-year plans and planning commission and NIIO. But when you get the notes in the Telegram channel, all the things which I will be covering here will be in detail, which will be very much relevant for your preparation. So going with that, so it is based on the Harrod-Domer model. So what happened was influx of refugees, severe food shortage, high inflation. These all created an impact during the first 5-year plan. It was probably a successful plan because a good harvest were there, and because of which the price was being able to control, like agricultural price, power, transport, the price of products was being able to control. So the target growth which was planned was 2.1%, but 3.6% was achieved, which is a success. Coming to the second 5-year plan from 1956 to 61. So it stressed on the rapid industrialization and the public sector. Like it was developed under the PC Mahalanobis model, which emphasized on rapid industrialization. The government imposed high tariffs to protect the domestic industries under this plan. The industrial policy of 1956 was based on the establishment of socialistic pattern of society as the goal of economic policy. Like we should know here what it is. India in the recent phase, since after independence, was mostly based on the socialistic pattern. Like the central government or the union government held most of the public production process, because they followed the socialistic pattern, because that pattern was followed because they were the then ruling party, the then government did not want economic inequality to get higher. So this plan was partly a success one, because shortage of forex reserve occurs, because of which inflation rose and price rise occurred, and that's why it was just a moderate success. Next one is the third 5-year plan. During this area, the then government felt that it was India to take off to a massive reforms, and based on the experience of the first two 5-year plans, Indian government and the then government emphasized on the agricultural and was given top priority to support the exports and industry in the agricultural sector during the phase of 19th third 5-year plan. So panchayat elections were introduced to bring the democracy to grassroots level, and important point should be noted here is it was the first time India borrowed from IMF during the third 5-year plan to reduce the shortages and balance the forex reserves or balance of payments. However, the plan was thorough failure because of the unforeseen events such as the Chinese aggression of 1962, Indo-Pakistan War of 1965, followed by severe drought during 1965-66. Because the later phase of development was shifted to defense from the development. The capital was shifted from development to defense to take care of the war. So, after third 5-year plan, there were 3 annual plans from 1966 to 69. It was declared because third 5-year plan was a failure, and the crisis in agriculture and serious food shortage necessitated the emphasis on agriculture during the annual plans. A whole new strategy was brought in by distributing the high yielding varieties of seeds, extensive use of fertilizers, and exploitation of irrigation potential and soil conservation. During those annual plans, the economy observed the shocks during the third plan, which was generated during the third plan, and it paved a path for better planned growth ahead. So after the annual plans came the fourth 5-year plan from 1969 to 1974. So during this point, what happened is during the war, particularly, the Allies refused to supply essential equipment and raw materials during the Indo-Pakistan War, which resulted in India growing with stability and progressive achievement of self-reliance. So it was based on the Gargill formula, where a great emphasis was laid on the growth along with stability and progress towards self-reliance. And it is also should be noted that family planning was only introduced during that phase to control the population. 14 banks were nationalized, and green revolution was brought into the scene to boost the agriculture. However, the post Indo-Pakistan War, which led to the liberation of Bangladesh, and the influx of the refugees created a situation where the prices rose and the plan was considered a big failure. Fifth 5-year plan from 1974 to 1979. So it was brought in the time where hike in oil prices and the failure of government takeover of the wholesale trade in wheat came. So it brought in 2 main concepts or objectives. One is Garibi Hatao, which is a famous slogan meaning removal of poverty and the attainment of self-reliance. So the Indian National Highway System was introduced during that phase. Till that there was nothing called highways. So after that 5th plan, rolling plans were introduced during the phase of 1978 to 1980. So what happened was, after that 5th plan, so Janata government came into to form the government, where they put forward a new 5-year plan from 1978 to 83, which emphasized on employment, which was totally opposite to Nehru model, which the government criticized for concentration of power, widening inequality, and for mounting poverty. However, unfortunately, the government lasted only for 2 years, after which, when the Congress government returned back to the power in 1980, they launched a different plan which aimed at directly attacking the problem of poverty by creating conditions by expanding the economy. Next is the sixth 5-year plan, which ranged from 1980 to 1985. It aimed at poverty removal, higher growth and modernization along with improvement in infrastructure in agriculture and industry. So it achieved most of its target. That plan, sixth 5-year plan, achieved most of its target, and on its part, it was seen as the end of Nehruvian socialism. So, and on their, which means end of Nehruvian socialism means it was beginning of the economic liberation by eliminating the price controls. So, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development was established during that phase. Next comes the seventh 5-year plan from 1985 to 1990. So it focused on modernization and increase in employment opportunity, and also it focused on increase in food grain production. It recorded the high agricultural overall growth, which was very much relevant for the next future plans of Indian 5-year plans. So after that, seventh 5-year plan, eighth 5-year plan was not introduced immediately because of the economic crisis or economic instability in India. India again faced a foreign exchange reserves, balance of payments, high balance of payments during the time, which rose the debt burden of India. Recession and inflation were the key issues during the launch of the plan, and thus liberalization, LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization was introduced in India to grapple with the problem of economy under former Prime Minister of India, P.V. Narasimha Rao. So after that, 1992, 8th 5-year plan was introduced in 1992 to 1997, which focused on human resource development, along with high growth of allied sector and manufacturing sector, growth in exports and imports, and emphasis on universal education and eradication of literacy. The main goals were to control population, reduce poverty, generate employment, strengthen the development of infrastructure, tourism, and focus on human resource development. And it should be also noted that India became a member of the World Trade Organization during this phase. Next comes 9th 5-year plan. So 9th 5-year plan on major part focused on rural development and decentralized planning. So it was prepared under the United Front government, which focused on growth with social justice and equality. So it prioritized agriculture and rural development, aimed to provide safe drinking water, education and shelter, and along with ensuring of food and nutritional security. So 10th 5-year plan from 2002 to 2007. The features of this plan were to promote inclusive growth and equitable development along with increase in the investment. So this is for the first time it intended for 8% GDP growth per year, and also aimed at reducing the poverty by 500,000 and creating employment for over 80 million people. It aimed at reducing the regional inequalities and also the gender gaps in the field of education and wage rates by 2007. This plan was quite a moderately successful because the target growth which was set was 8%, but the actual growth was just 7.6%, very minutely missing the target. Next one is the 11th 5-year plan from 2007 to 2012. It was to consider for development for overall development, and it was aimed at towards faster and more inclusive growth. It should be noted that India emerged as one of the fastest growing economy by the end of the 10th plan. So the savings rate and investment rates are increased. Industrial sector responded well to the competition of the global economy, and foreign investors were very keen to invest in India. So it aimed at environmental sustainability and protection in gender equality. On the part, you should also know that The focus was also laid on providing clean drinking water for all by 2009. Next, but on its part, again it missed the target. So the planned growth was 9%, but the actual growth was 8%. Next one is the final 12th five-year plan, which ranged from 2012 to 2017. It had its aim at faster, more inclusive, and sustainable growth as its theme. So it almost said that removing the gender and social gap in admissions in school, and also bringing in improved access in the higher education. It also aspired to enhance the green cover by 1 million hectares each year and to create new opportunities in the new non-farming sectors. So, hope you guys understood the 12 5-year plans. Like, you no need to worry about that. The note in the notes it's very clear, which you will be receiving soon. So no need to worry about that. Taking notes and stuff on the pages, just understand the lecture, and when you see the notes you will eventually find it better to read and revise. So next we'll deal with the planning commission. So the planning commission, as you all know, was set up by a resolution of the government of India in 1950 to promote the rapid rise in standard of living of people by efficient exploitation of resources along with increasing productivity and offering opportunities to all for employment in service of community. Like it was planned from by the government, the then government, union government, to develop India stage by stage. So its composition where chairman was the prime minister was the chairman who presided all the meetings of the commission. Deputy chairman was a functional head, that's full-time functional head, where he was responsible for the formulation and submission of the draft 5-year plan to the central cabinet, was appointed by the central cabinet for a fixed tenure and enjoyed the rank of cabinet minister. Part-time members were some central ministers, and ex officio members were the finance minister and some planning ministers. What the functions of planning committee? So the planning committee's main work was to formulate the 5-year plan with specific targets, strategies, and investment for different sectors. So it was also put into to conduct regular assessment of resources, which includes natural resources, human resources, and financial resources. So plays central role in development programs. Yes, it plays a central role in development programs because it prioritizes the allocation of resources across various sectors. It decides what resource goes to which sector and how much it should develop. Provides for empowerment of marginalized group. Yes, like it helps women, SC, ST, below poverty line people. It encouraged those people. It provided for empowerment of the people, and also encouraged the public participation in the process of planning, which was again said to be a function, but in reality it looks like it did not happen as much. Next, let's look into the advantages and challenges of the planning commission. So it laid emphasis on the infrastructure developments and capacity building, because of which huge investments poured into India in the field of education, energy, railways, irrigation, infrastructure, etc. So India became self-sufficient in agriculture and also made great progress in capital sector goods and consumer sector goods. And to be noted, India became from one of the weak economy, poor economy, to an emerging economic power due to the planning commission and its ideas. So also made great emphasis on social justice, governance, employment generation, poverty alleviation, health and skill development. However, There were challenges of planning commission too. There were some challenges with it faced too. Ineffective forum for the resolution of center-state and inter-ministerial issues. Like, you cannot come there, deal with the issues. No, you are just a spectator. A state was just a spectator during the planning commission period, because the center decides for all. Center decides everything and allocates resources, and the state had no say in that, because of which the planning commission was not able to solve the center state issues or the interministerial issues. And those phases, some ministries required more funds or more resources, some ministries required less funds, less resources, but the misallocation of funds occurred, which planning commission was not able to solve. It was a toothless body. Of course, it was a toothless body, because it was not able to make union states or union territories answerable for not achieving the targets. They were not answerable. States were not answerable for not achieving the targets. They can just recommend, suggest, but they can ask why. But the states are not answerable to the targets if they do not. And Central Planning Commission was again a top-down approach. Like, the design plan with one size fit for all. Like, they decide, okay, India is this, the entire India is this, let's design one plan and put it everywhere, ask all the states to implement it. It will not at all work. How will it work? Each state has its own problem, has its own resources. How will it work? No, it will not at all work, because of which many plans fail to show some benefits, some tangible results. And on its another part, we can say that it had weak implementation, monitoring and evaluation. Where is that? Who is there to evaluate? Who is there to monitor? It just did allocation and gave the 5-year plans and nothing else. It did not monitor, it did not evaluate, and it did not overlook the implementation of that plans. That was the challenges faced by the Planning Commission. Now let us look into NIIO. So, the NIIO, National Institute for Transforming India, is responsible for giving advice to the government on different issues. Like, we should remember that NIIO is an advisory body, while Planning Commission was given power to allocate resources, and allocate resources to specific ministries, and finances were also allowed by Planning Commission to handle. Our Planning Commissions was allowed to handle finance resources too, but in the case of NIIO, it was with the Finance Ministry. So NIIO followed a bottom up approach in framing the various policies, where the plans formed at the central level, and opportunities were provided for the state to have a say in them. Like, because each state has their own problems, own issues which they have to be dealt with. Let's now look into the composition. Again, here the Prime Minister serves as the chairperson of the NIIO. The NIIO Vice Chairman is appointed by the Prime Minister. The Governing Council consists of all the Chief Ministers of state and union territories and Lieutenant Governors. Regional Council. The Regional Council addresses specific regional areas. South Regional Council assesses and plans about the South issues. And it is chaired by the Prime Minister or any office person who is nominated with. It comprises again of Chief Ministers and Lieutenant Governors of Union Territories. Ad hoc memberships. 2 members from leading research institutions serve as ex officio members on the rotational basis. So, up to 4 members from the Union Council of Ministers are nominated by the Prime Minister as ex officio members. Chief Executive Officer, the NIIO CEO, is appointed by the Prime Minister and holds the rank of Secretary to the Government of India. Special invitees, experts and specialists with domain knowledge are nominated by the Prime Minister to take part in the meetings. So, it's a quite wide extensive composition, but still it was a need for the society, because Planning Commission on its part was redundant. It got old. So to replace that came National Institute for Transformation of India, So now let us look at into the guiding principles of and pillars of NITI Aayog. First, let's look into the guiding principles. Antyodaya. It was nothing but to prioritizing the service and upliftment of poor, marginalized, and downtrodden people, as said by Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay's idea of Antyodaya. Inclusion. All vulnerable and marginalized sections, redressing identity based inequalities of all genders, region, religion, caste, or classes. Village. To integrate our villages into the development process, which draw on the vitality and form the energy of the bedrock of our ethos, culture, and sustenance. Demographic dividend. To harness our greatest asset, the people of India. India is the youngest country which is in the phase of demographic dividend right now. By education and skilling them and empowering them can help boost India to the next stage. People's participation to transform the development process into a people driven one, making an awakened and participative citizenry the driver of good governance. Next is governance. See, when a governance there, it must be open, transparent, accountable, proactive, and purposeful style, which transitions from outlay to output to outcome. So, sustainability. So, to maintain the sustainability at the core of the planning and development process, because as the ancient tradition of India, ancient traditions were developed based on respecting the environment. Now, let us look into the pillars of NITI Aayog. Pro people. It satisfies the aspirations of both society and individuals. Proactivity. It focuses on anticipating and responding to the needs of citizens. Participation. So, participation entails the involvement of the general public to not only the governments or local bodies. No, everyone come in and wants to involve it. Empowering. It empowering the people, particularly women, in all parts of their lives. Inclusion of all. It ensures the inclusion of all people, regardless of caste, grade, and gender. Next is equality. The main aim is to ensure that all people have equal access to opportunities. And finally, transparency, making the government more transparent and responsive is referred as, because when the government is more transparent and responsive, it will prevent the fraudulent approaches, fraudulent issues, eventually benefiting the people and the government and the nation in ultimate. Now let's look into the significance and challenges of NITI Aayog. So it promotes the cooperative federalism by involving states in process of decision making. As I said, in the phase of planning commission, the states were only spectators, but in the NITI Aayog, states have worked in the process of decision making and ensures the active participation in policy formulation and implementation. It emphasizes, as we said, it emphasizes the bottom-up approach, which also encourages the involvement of local communities in planning and process of development. It serves again as a dynamic policy think tank where it brings various experts, stakeholders, and policymakers to generate new ideas, innovative ideas and solutions, which is posed by India's development, for India's development. So again, it focuses on inclusive development and by addressing the specific needs and concerns of marginalized section of society and ensuring that their participation is there in the process of development. However, there are again some challenges faced by NITI Aayog. So the task of NITI Aayog includes continuing to listen to state demands and meeting their needs and discussing the solution. But NITI Aayog has not been able to do so regularly. So it was not able to turn a profoundly unequal society into a modern economy which ensures the benefit of all citizens. That was not been able to be done by NITI Aayog. See, it does not appear to have a long term impact in policy making. No, it does not have that capacity. Like, example, demonetization and goods and service tax, it does not appear to have a long term impact on policy making. NITI Aayog did not have a say in that. And again, it lacks the authority to assess the effectiveness of various government programs. Okay, if some programs are not effective, they could remove that and bring a new program which will be effective. But it lacks the authority to assess that effectiveness. However, some initiatives of NITI Aayog were Atal Innovation Mission, New National Nutrition Mission, Digital India, Sustainable Development Goals, Ease of Doing Business, Water Management and Conservation for Jal Jeevan Mission. These things were all brought in as major initiatives of NITI Aayog, which is on track and going still for a better India. So, hope you guys understood today's planning commission, 5-year plans, and NITI Aayog. So, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation will be put in the Telegram group, and the notes for the same will be uploaded as soon as the notes that the unit ends. So, do like, share, subscribe the channel. We'll come back we'll resume the same unit in another lecture soon. Thank you guys.